I've taken over 10,000 sales calls in the past 2 years, and I've generated over $2 million in sales. And in just the last 3 months, I've profited over $100,000. And I got to this point once I realized what the most important things are when it comes to actually closing deals and making as much money as possible in sales. In this video, I'm gonna be going over everything that I've learned in the past couple years to get to the point where I'm at today, making over $40,000 a month at just 21 years old, so that you can speedrun the process and make a lot of money in sales in just the next 60 days. The first and most important thing sounds obvious, but 90% of people overlook this, and this is to actually take sales calls. Because I see people all over posting in Facebook groups or Reddit forums asking, how do I get good at sales? You actually have to take calls. It's like trying to learn how to drive by just watching videos of people driving. You actually have to go out there and do it. And I made this mistake. My first few weeks of trying to get into sales, I was just studying theory, watching videos, but you're gonna become best whenever you actually practice. And that's the truth. You learn sales by actually doing it, not just studying it. Every time you take a call and you face a harsh objection or you have an awkward silence, these are all things that you learn from. So it might not be fun at first. You might have to leave your job and you might have to take a pay cut in order to learn, but get some sort of sales job. Even if you're not making a lot of money, you're gonna learn invaluable skill sets to help you get better. There's guys out there that have been trying to get ready for 6 months and they're still broke, while there's guys that have zero experience that hopped into it and are now making over $10,000 a month. So you just have to start taking sales calls. And the second technique I actually learned from an ex-FBI hostage negotiator, and this is called labeling people. And this can be used in several scenarios. The first one is whenever someone answers a question and they give you a lot of ammunition to use for the sale, you simply label them and you make them feel understood. So if someone just poured their heart out and told you about how they're suffering with losing weight if you're selling a fitness program, and the hardest thing is that they don't have the discipline to eat right, you would tell them, so it sounds like you've been wanting to lose weight for a while, but you just haven't been able to actually find the discipline to stop eating the wrong foods. And this is gonna make them feel understood. So that's the first way to use a label, is making someone feel understood. And just by doing this, they're gonna feel like they can keep opening up to you and that you're someone who actually actively listens. The second way to use a label is to basically get someone to expand on a certain point. So I actually used this in a sales call the other day. I had a lady who knew that she needed the product. She told me everything right, but she didn't want to give me her payment information. And no matter what we went over, she just didn't want to give it out. And I could tell that this lady had probably been burned in the past because she didn't want to give out her information. So I just labeled her. I said, it sounds like you just maybe got burnt in the past by something similar to this. And that actually caused her to open up. And she said, yes, that's actually what happened. And I was able to actually talk with her and help her through it so that I could actually overcome the objection. The third way to use a label is actually by telling someone that they are someone specific so that their actions line up with that. So for example, you can label someone and say, you know what, John, you actually sound like an action taker. And this is just gonna make them more motivated to actually take action. The third thing that I've learned is that you need to take getting better at sales like an actual job, separate from just the sales calls. This is what separates a normal closer versus someone who makes 1% income. Because imagine a basketball player who just shows up to the games and doesn't practice outside of it. Of course, you're gonna get better by taking sales calls, but you're not gonna get elite unless you intentionally try and get better. In sales, you get paid based off of performance. So if you're not actively trying to practice and actually improve your skill set, you're choosing to not make as much money as you can. Here's a couple tips to actually get better. One is by listening to sales videos or podcasts. There's a lot of great resources out there like Alex Hormozi, Jeremy Miner, and a ton of other sales trainers that have podcasts and videos on YouTube. If you listen to these every morning, you're gonna pick up little tactics and frameworks that are gonna help you out. The second thing is gonna be actually reviewing and studying your calls and what you could have done better. So after each call, you should have notes on what objection you actually got so that you can actually re-go over it in your head and think about how you could have done that call better. Reading books is also gonna be extremely valuable. That's actually where I learned that labeling tactic, and you're gonna pick up a ton of small things if you read books from sales experts or people that are just really good at psychology so that you can understand what drives people to actually make decisions. And finally, you can have other people who are better than you at sales actually review your calls. You can do this by either paying a mentor, or if you followed my other tip of actually getting a sales job, then you can have someone in your company who's a high performer or your sales manager review your call to help you get better. This is gonna actually give you feedback from someone who has been where you're at, and they can tell you exactly what you can do to improve. Sales call reviews are gonna be one of the biggest needle movers when it comes to getting better. Another lesson that I had to learn the hard way is that no matter how good you are at sales, your vehicle matters. Because even if you're the best closer in the world, if you're in a sales position that caps you out, it's not physically possible to make more money. For example, door to door, it's great. I know a lot of people that make good money with it, but you can only walk on foot for so long and knock so many doors. You're capped out to how many people you can actually talk to. High ticket sales, I did that before. I made good money. I was making about $10,000 a month, but again, you're also capped out to how many people the business owner is able to book into your calendar, because you can only take that many calls per day. As soon as I switched over to life insurance sales, which is what I currently do, I was able to make way more money, and it has a much higher cap, as well as the industry is uncapped. But one big mistake people make whenever they're choosing their industry is they try and get into the easiest thing rather than what can actually pay the most, because most people, they look at what is the average rep making. And this is probably one of the biggest mistakes I see people make whenever they're looking for a job. You should be looking at what the top performer makes, because sales is a skill set, as we know, so you can always get better. So whenever I'm joining a company, I always ask, how much is the top performer making, and what are they doing differently than the other sales reps? And if the only thing they're doing differently is that they're just better than the other sales reps, that tells me where I can actually take the opportunity. Another big lesson that I've learned is how to build real scarcity, not the fake scarcity like a lot of sales reps. Hey, this offer expires at midnight. This is your last chance to do it. No, real scarcity. And that is by making the client understand the consequence of them not buying. So what this would look like, let's say you're selling a life insurance policy. You ask them, hey, Mr. John, so if you didn't put anything in place, how would your son cover all of your final expenses? Would he just be coming out of pocket? How would that work? Then he's gonna explain what happens if he doesn't buy the product. That's gonna make him realize there's real consequences to if he doesn't do it. That creates real scarcity, not the fake scarcity of, hey, you only have 24 hours to buy this. And that's why the best closers, they don't just try and create problems, they shine light on the current problems that the person is already facing that they don't even realize that they're facing. Another thing that's been an absolute game changer on my sales calls is understanding that people don't buy the product, they buy what's in alignment with their identity. For example, let's say you're selling a business opportunity. If you can sell the identity of that person being someone who cares about their future and being financially set and being financially responsible, they're gonna wanna make a decision that's in alignment with that identity. Or let's say, for example, you're selling a life insurance policy. If you sell the identity that this person is someone who cares for their family and their family's future, they're gonna make a decision that's in alignment with that identity. You can tell them, okay, John, it sounds like you really care about setting your family up for a good financial future And that's why you're looking to actually make more money so that you can be a responsible provider for them. And this is going to make them be in alignment with a specific identity so that they buy the product that you're selling. Also, just understanding what causes someone to buy. There's a few different things that causes this. The first one is the person actually acknowledging that they have a problem. So you need to be able to make the person acknowledge that. Second thing is making them admit that they need a solution to that problem, or that they have a set goal to fix that problem. After that, it's figuring out what they think the solution to that problem would be, or what they actually need to fix that. The next thing is presenting your product in a way that makes them understand that this is gonna help them out. After that, you need to make them understand that they need it urgently. So like I went over earlier, there's a way to create real urgency, and that's by making them understand the consequences of not changing. Once you get all of those, then it's actually about the person trusting you and being able to buy from you because you pitch them correctly. One of the biggest mistakes that new sales reps make when they're trying to handle objections is that they don't properly diffuse the sales resistance. So what that means is if someone gives you an objection, most sales reps, they immediately try and rebuttal that objection. Oh, I need to think about it. Oh, what do you need to think about? That's gonna cause a ton of resistance. So you always need to agree with the prospect. And this is a skill set that you need to master, is being able to first diffuse all of the client's sales resistance. And this is often done by simply agreeing with them. For example, let's say a client does tell you that they need to think about it. Rather than immediately getting their guard up and asking them what they need to think about, tell them, yeah, of course you need to think about it. How long did you need? Maybe they might say a week or two. Okay, perfect. Let's schedule in a follow-up appointment a week or two from now. Schedule in an appointment. But what they don't know, this is a fake appointment. Their resistance is going to be completely down because they think you're letting them off the hook, and then you go right back into it. Okay, and then just so I can maybe answer any questions that you might have for our next appointment, what was like the biggest thing that you needed to go over or kind of still had questions about? And then they give you the real objection so that you can handle it from there. All of these techniques that I just went over work because they tap into fundamental human psychology, but they only work if you're in the right vehicle selling a product that people actually need. What I've shared with you today took me over 10,000 sales calls and 2 years of experience to learn. You can skip the whole learning curve by just implementing these strategies immediately. And if you want to actually implement these strategies into a vehicle that's uncapped and better than all other sales opportunities, because trust me, I've tried them all. I have a link below that you can apply to join my team, but I'm not accepting everyone, only people who are serious and ready to put in the work and develop their skill set in sales. See you guys in the next one.